some of these burps and some of these interruptions. We're about to proceed through our second Surya Namaskar B. I just want to make sure I have connectivity here. All right. So we're about to do second Surya Namaskar B. So we ended with that back bend and then hands by our side. Surya Namaskar B, we're going to open up the hips a little bit with a hip opening sequence. We'll start our second Surya Namaskar B with a chair pose. Exhaling, taking it lower. On the inhale, rising on up. On the exhale, a big swan dive over. Take a breath to find length, and then breathing out back to down dog as you will. Either cycling through vinyasa or just stretching straight back. From down dog, flow style, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Finding a three-legged dog, right leg high, high on the left toes. Without overly disturbing the shoulders, stacking the hips, right hip on top of left. Now bending that top leg, opening up that hip. And then looking between the hands, bringing that right foot on through, landing it lightly as we spin the back heel down, finding your warrior one, arms up and over the head. And then on the exhale, back to low lunge, and from low lunge, back to down dog, as you will. Again. Take your time, find your flow. From down dog, second side, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. I'll invite you to find a three-legged dog, right leg high, left leg high. From three-legged dog, without overly disturbing the shoulders, lifted leg straight as you stack the hips. Now bending that top leg, opening up that hip. And then looking between the hands, sweeping that left foot on through, spinning the back heel down, finding your warrior one, arms up and over the head. And then on the exhale, back to low lunge, and from low lunge back to down dog, as you will. Take your time, find your flow. As we hold down dog, breathing, watching that breath, and enjoying that reflection upon your breath. From down dog, long, smooth breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, looking between your hands as you step, or maybe take a jump front. Take a breath to find length. Exhaling, folding. On the inhale, back to our chair pose. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring your hands to your heart. That light press of the palms as your weight gathers in your feet. Either staying there or adding an isometric engagement as we press the palms together, elbows wide, shoulders engaged. I'll invite you to add a tuck of the tail and a tuck of the chin as we connect with the strength in our center. And then hands by our side. From here, let's step or jump our feet hip width apart. From here, on the inhale, we'll bring arms out to the side. On the exhale, we'll cross the hands in front as we bend the knees. Inhaling, now switching the cross. And let's do 6 of these. Halfway done. One more each side. And then back up and hands by our side. From here, let's bring hands on hips as we shift weight onto the right foot. And I'll invite you to angle that foot out just a tad. I don't know if you can see that. I find when the toes are angled out just a little bit, the hip feels, at least my hip feels a little more easeful. And easeful is a good thing, particularly in these balancing poses that I find challenging. So we shift weight onto the right foot, the toes are angled out just a tad, and that's going to be a little different depending on the shape of your hip. We can bring left foot onto right thigh, and we start to find a standing half lotus as we sit down in an invisible chair. In our standing half lotus, either keeping the hands on the hips or hands find the heart. Either keeping hands on heart, or we can stretch those hands high to the sky.
I think the screen's tipped a little bit.
It does look a little tipped. Could be just our balance though.
No, but I think the computer's off kilter.
It is. I'm gonna adjust. From high hands, we can come back to hip hands. We can straighten the standing leg. We can lift this leg high. And again, if I go straight front, the hip feels a little constrained. So maybe take that leg out to the side a little bit as we go along through the leg. Lifting that leg a little higher. And then I'll invite you to sweep that foot on through as we find our Warrior One prep, hands in our hips. Lining up the heels, squaring the hips front. They're not going to get there, but that back hip moves front hip moves back. From here, we can bring hands under our shoulders, just relaxing our shoulders. Also squaring the torso front. From here, finding a clasp of the fingers behind the head, pressing the head into the hands, open heart, open throat. And then I'll invite you to find a tray in front. From here, straightening the front leg without locking the knee as we draw energy into our center of balance. On the exhale, circling the hands around. And let's do that a few times. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. 3 more to go. Breathing in. Breathing out. Last 2. Breathing in. Breathing out. Last 1. Breathing in. Breathing out. Now I'll invite you to hold this letter W shape, great go-to shape at any point in your day. Elbows move back, the hands come with. I'll invite you to wiggle those fingers. And let's turn Warrior One into Warrior Two. As hands find the heart, we open up the hips to face the side wall. We can kick the back foot in just a tad. You might also go a little longer in the stance. I tend to find Warrior Two tends to be a longer leg stance than Warrior One. From here, finding one long arm and looking out over those front fingers with a steady yet relaxed gaze. From here, painting rainbows. Let's do a few of these. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. 3 more to go. Breathing in. Breathing out. Last 2. Breathing in. Breathing out. Last 1. Breathing in. Breathing out. Finding your Warrior Two. From here, let's transition to the triangle. Thumb and forefinger find crease of hip and base of rib. We can deepen that crease. We can lengthen those ribs. I'm a little teacup short and stout. And then grounding that bottom hand down in an appropriate place. We can set that top shoulder. We can stretch that hand high to the sky. Either looking down to the ground, off to the side, or up past those top fingers with that mixture of effort and ease. As we hold the triangle with every breath in, finding your center of balance, 3 fingers below the navel. With every breath out, sending the energy out through both arms, both legs, and both ends of the spine. I'll go sideways here for the demo. Kathy, you stay just as you are. From here, exploring that lateral top line as we exhale that hand front, turning our heart to the floor. On the inhale, lifting hand high as we spin heart to sky. And let's do a few of these. Exhaling and inhaling. Exhaling and inhaling. Exhaling and inhaling. Halfway done. Exhale. You try to turn that torso just a little bit more and lifting it up. So you want to look down at your foot. Feel that and feel the whole torso turn. And then back up. Last one. We're going to look down. We turn our heart to face the floor. Bottom hand joins. Now we're going to take that twist out right here. Pure side motion. We breathe 2 hands up and exhale it over. 2 hands up. Exhale it over. 2 hands up. Exhale it over. Halfway down, breathing it up. Exhale it over. Up and over. Beautiful. 1 more to go. Breathing in. Breathing out and holding. And I'll invite you to wiggle those fingers as we keep our hands supple. From here, let's bring hands to hips as we soften the front knee. We take a big step in. We're moving towards Parsvottanasana, or pyramid pose here. So we're lining up the heels. There's a big angle on the back foot. We turn and face that straight front leg. I'll invite you to bring arms out to the side, the palms face down. And we can swan dive over that front leg. I'll invite you to bend the knee enough so you ground down through 2 hands. If that's still not enough, you can always bring hands onto the shin. As we hold this stretch, pushing into that front foot as you draw that hip back, lengthening the hamstring in both directions. Let it be an invitation as opposed to an insistence. Just inviting that hamstring to loosen. Don't pull too hard. We don't want to tear anything. Most of us probably won't, but if you do a lot of these over time and we push too hard, eventually we might start to fray some of those muscle fibers, and we don't want that. That leads to a dull ache. That's no fun for anyone. Now, as we hold this Parsvatanasana or pyramid, hands either on the floor or on the shin, any amount, I invite you just to rock your hips from side to side. So we're moving between warrior 1 hips and warrior 2 hips, just stretching it out. And now we're going to move towards the revolved triangle. As we square the hips towards that front leg, right hand finds the sacrum, the palm faces up. I'm going to invite you to walk left hand in, and then try to keep the hips as level as you can, lengthening through both side waists as we turn our heart towards the straight front leg. We can set that top shoulder. We can stretch that hand high to the sky, either looking down, off to the side, or up to the sky. In this pose, if this pose feels wobbly or tippy, I'll invite you to bring your mind to that back foot and that back leg. Super strong in that leg. And from the strength of that leg, maybe finding a little more twist in the shape, any amount. Those of you that lifted the top arm, we can bring it back to the sacrum. I'll suggest everybody comes back to Parsvatanasana as we frame front foot with both hands, and then taking a big step back as we spin the back heel up for low lunge, and from low lunge back to down dog, as you will, either cycling through vinyasa or stretching straight back. Again, let your breath make the call, find your flow, follow your breath. Whatever shape you choose, coming back to an even breath, the Samarvriti, the same wave, even breath in, even breath out. And at the very, very end of practice, we'll vary that ratio. And that's one of the breath exercises we do in the yoga practice, is vary the ratio between the inhale and the exhale. And it has different energetic effects. From down dog, long, smooth breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, looking between your hands as you mindfully make your way front. Take a breath to find length. Exhaling, folding. On the inhale, let's come back to our chair pose, knees over toes, hands over head. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring your hands to your heart, either keeping that light press of the palms as your weight collects in your feet, or adding that isometric engagement as we tuck tail and chin, elbows wide, shoulders engaged, and then hands by our side. From here, let's step or maybe jump our feet hip width apart. On the inhale, we'll bring hands to one side. On the exhale, we'll pass the hands through center as we bend the knees. On your next inhale, finding that other side. And maybe that breath whooshes out through the mouth. One more each side. And then back up. And hands by our side. Let's make two fists and bring them just below the navel. On the inhale, we'll trace a line from the navel through the heart. We'll press the palms up as we breathe out through the mouth. On the inhale, circling around, tracing that line through the heart to the sky. And let's do 6 of these. Halfway done. Last 2. And last 1. And then hands by our side. From here, let's bring hands to the back of our hips, our fingers face down. Let's go a little wider with our feet here. And just circling our hips. One of my favorite exercises here. If you're not too shy, you can do this in a public place. And even if you are, you don't have to do it as big. And then take it a little bit. Just loosening up the back, loosening up the hips. Just starting to find our flow. And a lot of times that starts with the hips. And then back to center. Let's pretend we have an extra set of hands. Extra set keeps our hips relatively stable. Real hands find the shoulders. And we'll just circle our shoulder girdle. Say 5 or 6 times. I won't cue it. Just letting you find your flow, connecting with your feeling body. And taking it the other way. Now back to center. Ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. Ears, shoulders, hips over heels. Arms in the air like you either do or don't care. Hips go one way, shoulders go the other. Again, just finding your flow. Let it be loose, let it be liquid. Just breathing, enjoying your movement, enjoying your body, enjoying the morning. We've entered the fog zone here in San Francisco. So most of our mornings are occluded. Having said that, they're very quiet, and taking it the other way, the fog tends to quiet things down. Almost like there's a big blanket over the city. Awesome. Look at that. Total freestyle. And then back to center and hands by our side. So let's move towards that standing half lotus second side. So we shift the weight to the left. And again, I'll invite you to, you can't try to get to a place where you can see it, but straight ahead foot tends to make my hip feel a little tight. So I tend to turn the toes out just a tad. And everyone's hips are a little bit of a different shape. So some of us might have a huge turnout. Other of us not so much. So finding a place where your hip feels easeful. From here, hands find the hips. We soften that standing leg, and we bring the other foot on top of the thigh for the standing half lotus. We can pretend like we're sitting in a chair. We want to feel both hips moving down at the same rate. We want to feel like both hips are even vis-a-vis front and back planes. You can make those little adjustments as we hold the shape. From here, hands can find the heart. From here, we can stretch those hands high. From here, high hands, if they went high, can come back to the hips. We can straighten the standing leg, and again, a little hip anatomy here. Classically, the pose is taught straight ahead, both legs. I'll angle the leg out just a little bit before I go long through that leg, with a soft point to the toe. Lifting that leg just a little higher. And then we can sweep it on through as we find our warrior one prep. And I'll go sideways here. So you want to line up the heels, and that would be your tippiest. If you did want to go a little wider, and again, it depends on the shape of your hips, where your body is this morning. You might kick the back foot out just a tad. We want to square the hips front. Front hip moves back, back hip moves front. One hip's probably going to be a little bit high. You want to try to find that evenness vis-a-vis the ground and the sky. From here, we can bring hands onto our shoulders, relaxing those shoulders, and also squaring the torso front. Now, switching the clasp of the fingers, we press the head into the hands, open heart, open throat, fourth and fifth chakra, community and communication. So important these days. And then finding a tray in front. From here, breathing in as we gather energy into our center of balance. On the exhale, offering it out. Now let's do a few of these. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Halfway done. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Last one here. Breathing in, breathing out, and holding. This letter W shape, such a wonderful heart opener. Elbows move back, the hands come with. We can wiggle those fingers. And then turning one into two. As hands find the heart, we open up the hips. You might kick the back foot in. And I find I like to go a little longer on this one. It's a warrior pose, so I think originally it was a fencing stance. So definitely the longer you can go, the closer that sword can get to your opponent. And then looking out over those front fingers with that mixture of effort and ease. From here, painting rainbows, inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. 2 more to go. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and holding. And then transitioning to Trikonasana, thumb and forefinger find crease of hip and base of rib. I'm a little teacup short and stout. So tip me over and pour me out. Kathy's a children's librarian, or at least she used to be, so she knows that song really well. We can set that shoulder, we can stretch hand high. Either looking down to the ground, off to the side, or up to the sky. With every breath in, finding your center of balance, 3 fingers below the navel, the diaphragm stretches towards that place. Every time you breathe out, the diaphragm domes up to the heart, and we can send that energy out through the legs, the arms, both ends of the spine. I'll go sideways here for the demo as we explore that lateral top line. So we bring the arm front. Now there's going to be a very conscious twist. So we start to find more movement in our thoracic spine. Inhaling up. So exhaling and up. Exhaling. Inhale it up. Halfway done. Exhale and inhale. Exhale and inhale. Now this last one, we're going to exhale, heart turns to the floor, bottom hand joins. Now we're going to take that twist out. This is pure side motion as we breathe 2 hands up. And exhale it over. 2 hands up. Exhale it over. 2 hands up. Exhale it over. Halfway down, breathing it up. Exhale it over. Inhale. Exhale, last one, breathing it up. Exhale it over and hold, and I'll invite you to wiggle those fingers. And then we can bring hands to our hips. We can shift the weight onto the front foot as we take a big step in. And we move towards Parsvottanasana, or pyramid pose. So that back foot's going to be angled in a lot, so we can totally square the hips front. Also, taking care of our knee there. We can bring arms out to the side. And then we can swan dive over a basically straight front leg. Be mindful of your hamstring. And feel free to bend the knee enough so hands come to the ground. If that still doesn't work, feel free to bring hands onto shins. So the ground is preferable. 1 foot or 2 feet down and 2 hands down, you have a nice solid base. When we start to play with our hips a little bit, having said that, if that's not happening, you don't have a book or a pair of bricks or something to raise the floor, hands on the shin, and then when you do the hip movement, it's going to be more subtle, but you can still definitely explore that energy there. And then if you haven't started yet, just squaring the hips front and out to the side. Just being with your hips. One of my favorite communions here. And then moving towards revolved triangle. As we square the hips front, we can bring left hand to the sacrum, the palm faces up. As if we're holding water. We don't want to spill that water as we walk the other hand in. Still trying not to spill that water. The hips can play a little bit. We twist and turn heart towards straight front leg. Either focus on that primary twist of the torso as we find more movement in thoracic spine, or we can set the shoulder and stretch hand high. And you might stretch hand, find it's not a place where you want to be. If you do stretch that hand high to the sky or not, you also might just think about starting to move the shoulders in congruence with the ribs. As we again find more space. This thoracic spine is where our ribs connect into the spine. Also protects our heart and lungs, so it's super solid and super stable. But if we can get a little more movement in this mid-back, this thoracic spine region, our low back and our upper back don't have to work as hard. If you extended the arm high to the sky, I'll invite you to frame front foot with both hands as we come back to our low lunge, to Parsvottanasana. And from Parsvottanasana, stepping the foot back to find low lunge. And from low lunge back to down dog, as you will. Those of you hard chargers might cycle through vinyasa. Those of you who are easing into the morning might skip all that and just stretch on back. Another choice, of course, would be the child's pose. Or all fours. There's lots of places to go. From down dog, long, smooth breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, looking between your hands as you step or take a jump to the front of the mat. Take a breath to find length. On the exhale, folding. One more time this morning on the inhale, finding our chair pose, knees over toes, hands over head. Exhaling, taking it lower. On the inhale, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring your hands to heart. Either keeping that light press of the palms as your weight gathers in your feet, or adding that isometric engagement as we find strength in our center. Tuck of the tail, tuck of the chin, shoulders engaged, elbows wide, and then hands by our side. From here, let's step our feet. You might jump them, hip width apart. Let's lean a little bit forward as we bring our hands onto our shoulders again, and just asymmetrical shoulder rolls as we make more supple the ancillary muscles of respiration. And then taking those asymmetrical shoulder rolls the other way. And then we can come back center, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, ears, shoulders, hips over heels as we stand tall. From here, let's do a stationary one hand up, one hand down. We turn to the left side, we press left hand up, right hand down, breathing in. Exhaling through center, and we turn to the right, breathing in. And let's do 6 of these. Exhaling through center, inhaling. Now let's do one more each way. And then back to center and hands by our side. One more breath exercise before we move into a swan sequence, a student request. We can bring hands to heart. We're going to turn to the left as we inhale. We'll push left hand out. We'll pull back with right hand like we're firing a bow and arrow as we breathe into back lungs. Exhaling through center, and we take it the other way. You know, I like to point that index finger, give myself a little target. Also stretching out your hand. And I like to point that finger up and then try to draw it back as we stretch out the face of the palm. And one more each way. And back to center. And hands by our side. So let's move towards pigeon or swan pose. It's like the figure 4 shape, the standing lotus that we did before, except we're on our bellies. Now if that's too much for your knees, you'll just flip onto your back and you do it on your back. But maybe I'll demo that. So big toes touch, heels slightly apart, finding your chair pose. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up. On the exhale, a big swan dive over. Take a breath to find length, and then breathing out, back to down dog, as you will. Again, take your time, find your flow. Nice. From here, I'll talk Kathy through it. Big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Right leg high to the sky for the 3-legged dog. High on the left toes, without overly disturbing the shoulders, stacking the hips. Now bending that top leg, opening up that hip. And now you're going to sweep right knee to right wrist. You want to keep the knee joint closed. And then you're going to walk that left foot back as you settle the hips at the same rate. And take your time. Yeah. I like to unfurl the back toes, so that means back toes aren't tucked. Tops of the toes are down to stabilize the shape. Also a nice stretch where the ankle and foot connect. From here, let's set the shoulder blades back and down. Awesome. And you want to keep that sense of openness in the heart as you walk the hands forward so that the swan can take a little bit of a nap. And you can't see, let me adjust. So her arms are an extension. That's a good way to do it. If that's too much for you right here, right now, you could also cross the forearms And for some of us, crossed forearms is a little constricting the upper back. The third option might be a pair of soft fists. You want to show that, Kat? No, but you want to stack the fists. And then make them like little potatoes. So it looks like that. Yeah. And just put it right on the third eye. For many of us, we have knee issues. I have knee issues. Many of us do, even if you're not as old as we are. So the option is on your back, in which you cross the ankle over the thigh. You could stay right here. You could also draw the knee in as you reach through to catch the thigh or the shin, and just hanging out there. And this would be the safest for your knees. In yoga, anytime you feel a sharp pain or a twinge, a good sign that you're pushing too hard and maybe the shape's not right for you. And these are extreme shapes in many cases not, but and we go to the more towards the extreme so that in our everyday life we have more movement in places we can go when we do ordinary stuff like sitting, standing, walking, laying down. There's other reasons too. But you want to push it the right amount, but not too much. It's not like where you're trying to hit a particular heart rate or all that. Yeah. So from the sleeping swan, let me get into the shape. If your arms are an extension, we'll walk the hands back. I'll suggest everybody take that right arm and make it parallel to your body to the top of the mat. We can take left hand off to the side, and we can pull back with that right arm as we take a twist away from that bent front leg. Just breathing into your back. How does it feel? Do you want to add more traction? Do you want to add less traction? Maybe add variable traction, a little pulsing. Whatever your back wants. As we connect to our feeling body, and our low back is a big part of our feeling body. Now let's twist it the other way. We'll take left hand, we'll make that parallel to body or mat. Right hand out to the side and pulling back with that left hand. As we start to add a little traction, could be big traction, small traction, somewhere in between traction, maybe it's variable traction. Like wiggling in a key in a lock, trying to get that lock to spring open. And then we can bring it back center. If you're on your back, just stay right where you are. Those of us that are in this place, we can come back to this place, shoulder blades back and down. And we really want to connect with our center here. So you want to feel the perineum drawing up toward the navel. It's like right here to find your balance. As we lift one hand, maybe the other, maybe both hands float. Maybe we stretch those hands high. From here, let's spin the palms out as we ground down through two hands. We're going to come back to our down dog shape. As we tuck the back toes, we're going to lift that right leg high, and I'll suggest just giving that knee a little shake. Those of you on your back, making your way back to down dog as you will. And then everybody joins. Two hands, 2 feet on the floor, long arms, long legs, long spine, deep full breath, and either hanging out there or cycling through vinyasa. Yogi's choice. Those of you, come down a little bit so y'all can see my face. Second side here, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Left leg high to the sky without overly disturbing the shoulders, stacking the hips. Now bending that top leg, opening up that left hip, and then bringing that left knee on through as we find our pigeon or our swan on the second side. I like to work with a closed knee joint. We're going to walk that right leg back as we settle both hips at the same rate. We take the time to open up fourth and fifth chakra, and then keeping that openness as you crawl your hands forward, either working the pose with the arms in extension or finding that cross of the forearms or one of my friends used to call this potatoes. So the fists are stacked on top of each other, and it gives you a little more room than crossed forearms. You're still activating that third eye, the center of our intuition, how we know things without knowing how we know them. As we hold this sleeping swan, this sleeping pigeon, with every exhale breath, just letting yourself melt into the floor. And again, the option for those of us whose knees don't want to bear the weight of the body, at least not at this hour, not at this time, you could always slip over onto your back and find either the foot stays down, very mellow way to work it, or adding a little more traction as you reach through to catch the thigh or the shin. Just communing with that left hip. Those of you that chose the on the back version, you're going to stay right where you are. Those of us that found the on our knee version, we're going to take a twist to each side. Let me get into the shape here. If you work the arms in extension, we work the arms back. We take that left forearm parallel to our body, parallel to the mat, right hand out to the side, and we pull back with that hand as we start to find a nice twist to the low back. It's a relatively safe place to work. With this configuration of the legs, that SI joint is relatively stable. But again, any twinges, any tweaks, just back off, please. Most probably, if you feel that twinge or that tweak, you probably shouldn't be in the shape. You should be on your back, and that is going to be a very stable place to work that hip, with both sides of the sacrum pressing into the ground. Adding whatever traction is right and good for you. And then coming back center, we'll take the other forearm, other hand out to the side, pulling back with that forearm, just stretching out your back. Of course, breathing, watching your breath. Maybe adding a little swing, a little sway, again, like wiggling a key in a lock, trying to get that lock to spring open. As we find more space, more freedom in our bodies. And then back to center, and two hands find the floor. We can take that breath to set the shoulder blades back and down. And then core exercise if you choose. If it's not for you, just stay right here. You might wiggle it back and forth, just enjoying this shape. If you do want to play with the core engagement, we can lift one hand, maybe we lift the other. We start to feel that low belly engagement. And with that low belly engaged, maybe we stretch those hands high to the sky. Now spinning the palms out as we ground down solidly through two hands. We tuck those back toes. We find our three-legged dog. Let's give that knee a little shake. Make sure it's right and good. No need to overly get ambitious on this one. It's just about inviting more circulation into that closed knee joint, or that's now open. And then grounding down through 2 feet, 2 hands, long legs, long arms, long spine, deep full breath. And either hanging out here or one more time this morning, cycling through Vinyasa. Nice, beautiful. Look at that push-up. Look at those shoulders. Nice heart, nice throat. Deep, full breath. From our down dog shape, long, smooth breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath. I'll invite you to look between your hands as you step or take a jump front. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, folding. On the inhale, we'll come back to our chair, knees over toes, hands overhead. Exhaling, taking it lower. On the inhale, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring hands to heart, and either keeping that light press of the palms or engaging your center. As we tuck tail and chin, we press hands together, elbows wide, shoulders engaged. Despite all that effort, still finding any useful quality to the breath. and hands by our side. From here, let's come to a seated position. And I'll suggest legs in a very loose diamond shape. So it looks like this. So we've got external rotation. The feet are not together. And this is called Charasana, named after a Buddhist goddess of compassion. I believe she has green skin. I don't know. From Charasana, we'll take it into Kurmasana, the hermit, or the tortoise pose. Sounds like hermit. It's kind of like a hermit type pose, and maybe the two words are related. But anyway, we're going to feed our arms underneath our shins. And then we want to hinge at the hips. We want to keep neutral spine as long as we can. And then either staying in neutral spine, safest for most backs, back of the head's in line with the sacrum, or you round the spine without losing a speck of space as we soften. In our Kurmasana, our tortoise, just letting the groin soften as you exhale. As you breathe in, finding more space in back heart and breathing into that space. As we hold for a few breaths, maybe you take it a little bit further. You can make this very intense. You can keep it less intense. Again, just listening to your body, and most importantly, respecting what your body has to say. There's a mantra that goes with this shape that I find particularly useful in these times. I go deep within to find all that I need. I go deep within to find all that I need. I go deep within to find all that I need. From here, I'll invite you to tuck the chin as we unwind the arms. One of my favorite poses here, the flying, I call it the flying wedge, the flying V. We can reach and either grab our ankles as we float our feet, balancing on our tailbone. So we're not tucking the tailbone. Tailbone's not untucked. It's a neutral tailbone here. From here, either keeping hands on ankles, or we'll bring hands under our big toes. Either staying here or starting to play with opening up those legs. And maybe you find the flying wedge, the flying V shape. As we hold this shape, you can let those inner thighs stretch as we go a little wider. Shoulder blades back and down, deep, full breaths. This one always reminds me of balancing a pencil on its point. Something that's not easy to do, but if you do succeed to find that balance, it's just very, very satisfying. From this place, I'll invite you to find a butterfly in the air. Landing the butterfly, this time the soles of the feet do connect. We're going to move towards a Baddha Konasana, the butterfly pose, with the forward fold. So we could work hands on ankles. Another strategy is to take your thumbs to the insoles of the feet. And notice if you open up the insoles of the feet, it opens up the hips. Keeping this, hinging at the hips, keeping neutral spine as long as you can. And either keeping neutral spine, depending on how your back feels this morning, or as if you're rounding up and over a ball, not losing any space in the spine as we round the spine. Soft shoulders, tucked chin. And again, we can find that mantra. I go deep within to find all that I need. I go deep within to find all that I need. I go deep within to find all that I need. And as we hold the shape, just like in Kurmasana, with every out-breath, just letting your groin soften. With every in-breath, finding more space in back heart. And breathing into that space. Now a tuck of the chin as we bring it on up. Reclaiming tall spine, reclaiming neutral spine. And again, let's find that flying wedge, that flying V if you choose. We can start with the ankles. We might stay with the ankles as we balance on our tailbone. Maybe those peace sign fingers catch the big toes. Working towards expansion Maybe finding that big wide V in the air. Just breathing into those inner thighs, balancing on the tailbone, just surfing the waves of gravity. And again, let's find a butterfly in the air. And let's sit tall in our butterfly, and let's fly the butterfly a little bit as we bring hands onto our outer thighs, and we can close and lower. And I'll invite you to find some positive pressure between the hands and the outer thighs. So when we close, the thighs resist. When we open, the hands resist. And a couple more times. And then the next time we close the knees, let's go long through the legs. Let's do a long, slow roll down onto our backs. And we'll go sideways here. Make sure you got room behind you. We'll do a full body stretch when we get down. We can start in neutral spine, back of the head in line with the sacrum. From here we tuck tail and chin as we find C-spine. And then we lay each vertebrae down as if we're laying pearls onto a cushion. When we get down, arms by the ears, not too low. We want to keep the ribs soft and drawing in. Pointing fingers and toes as we breathe in. Exhaling as we flex hands and feet. Breathing in as we point. Exhale as we flex. Breathing in as we point. Exhale as we flex. And then I'll invite you to sweep your hands by your side as you widen the thighs, scooting the head back as you flatten the shoulders. Doing whatever else feels right and good for you this morning as we find our floating on a cloud shape. Our final relaxation for this practice right here, right now. As we hold the shape, I'll invite you to release Jiva Bandha. So tip of the tongue is now neutral in the mouth. Relaxed jaw, a soft part to the lips, but still breathing in and out through the nose. Doing whatever else feels right and good for you this morning. As we hold our Shavasana, the front plane of the body falls into the back plane. And both planes of the body heavy into the ground. The ground is always there for us. Initially focusing on your breath, but as we hold the shape, even letting that focus soften. As we bring our senses inside for what we call in yoga pratyahara. At home, feeling free to hold your floating on the cloud pose as long as you'd like. After about 10 or 15 minutes, my guess is you'll find a deep sense of relaxation, a still mind. Great place to start your day. For the purposes of this classic hour-long Wednesday morning class, just like we used to do at the Bay Club Financial District, I'll summon you out of it. So, bringing your focus to your mind, or bringing your mind to your breath, so calling your mind to this place first, just watching as your breath flows in and out. Now shaping your breath, long, slow inhalation, and we're going to vary that ratio with a longer, slower exhalation. So it's no longer the same breath, the samavritti. It's long, slow inhales in, but longer, slower exhales out as we find a more relaxing, a more languorous breath. Now wiggling fingers and toes as we invite more prana into our bodies. Now inviting that prana in towards center as we gently circle the wrists and the ankles. I'll invite you to draw one knee at a time in towards your heart as we find Apanasana, just using your thighs to massage your center of balance, 3 fingers below the navel, as we gently lift and lower the low back and hips. Now keeping the knees close in and just rocking it from side to side. Now rolling onto the right side, long through the right arm. Let that right arm serve as a cushion for the head as we share a long, slow breath here on the floor. I invite you to let that breath sigh out through your mouth and just soften your shoulders, relax your jaw, softening the corners of your eyes. And the neck relax, face soft as we press up to a cross-legged sit. As we sit, I'll invite you to bring your hands onto your knees, pulling back with your hands to sit up a little straighter, a little taller. A slight tuck of the chin. I'm going to ring these yoga bells one time. I'll invite you to listen to the striking of the tone, the duration of the sound, its subsequent diminution, and then the silence thereafter. From this place of relative silence, I invite you to bring your hands to your heart and bow as you thank yourselves for practicing yoga and as we offer our practice out to each other and to the world. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you at home for practicing with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for practicing with me.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time. We're going to try a yin class tomorrow night. So it's slow poses. We hold them for a long time. Maybe we'll get through 6 poses, but very relaxing practice. If you've never done it, perfect time to try it at home. There's really no pressure. So anyway, we'll see you real soon.